You are listening to Chesterton Radio at chestertonradio.com.
65.
The Jack Benny Program, presented by Lucky Strike.
Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky strike, be happy, go lucky strike today.
Stop fiddling, folks, when buying smokes. Join in the swing to pleasure. These Luckies are a richer blend with mildness for good measure.
Take away my diamond clips, the pearls that I adore. For Luckies are a girl's best friend and right in every store.
Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky strike, be happy, go lucky strike today.
Enjoy your cigarette. Enjoy truly fine tobacco that combines both perfect mildness and rich taste in one great cigarette, Lucky Strike. For only fine tobacco gives you both real mildness and rich taste. And LSMFT, Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. So friends, be happy, go lucky. Try a carton of Lucky Strike.
Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky strike, be happy, go lucky strike today.
The Lucky Strike program starring Jack Benny with Mary Livingston, Phil Harris, Rochester, Dennis.
Hold it, Don, hold it. Hold it. Wait a minute, Phil. Hold it, everybody.
What's the matter, Jack?
Look, we'll be on the air in a few minutes, and the opening is still not right. Now, rehearse it again.
But, Jack, I read the opening like I always do.
Oh, it isn't you, Don. It's the music.
And what, pray tell, is wrong with the music?
The same thing, pray tell, that's been wrong with it for 15 years. Phil, it's too loud. Nobody can hear Don. I can tell you now, Phil, you'll never get anywhere with that kind of blast.
Look, Jackson, now listen to me. I've got a Cadillac, a yacht, and a mansion in Encino. Show me one Claire de Lune man who can top that.
Phil, I know you have a Cadillac, a yacht, and a mansion. What does your music have to do with getting all those things?
My band played Here Comes the Bride. I looked at that little blonde standing beside me, said I do, and they were mine, all mine.
He admits it yet.
Jack, we'll be on the air in a minute, so why upset yourself?
But, Mary...
Well, Phil has a lot of bad musicians, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Wait a minute. Hold it a minute, May Company Maisie. Let's get something straightened out. What do you mean about bad musicians? For your information, Liv, my string section used to be with Whiteman, and some of my boys were with Dorsey.
Well, I'm talking about the fellows who worked with King.
Wayne King?
No, Waste King. They used to install them.
That I believe, and I like that, Mary. Now, Phil, let's take the opening theme again, and please...
Oh, Jack, we haven't time for that now. The audience is coming into the studio.
Oh, gee, I hope we have a good crowd. I'm going to peek through the curtain and see. Looks pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5...
Jack, stop counting. The tickets are free.
Oh, yes, I keep forgetting, you know.
Next aisle over, please. Next aisle over. Don't crowd, please. Don't crowd.
Oh, Lamb!
Coming, Ellie.
I almost lost your place in line. What took so long?
I got into a big argument in the lobby.
Why? What happened?
They wouldn't let me hitch my horse to that statue of Mr. Paley. I just can't understand.
Keep moving, please.
Now, see here. Don't push me around, Sonny. Mr. Benny mailed me my tickets personally. Come on, Ellie. Let's sit down here in the front row.
Okay, Lamb. I'm glad we got here on time.
Yeah? Good thing we turned the rooster back an hour last night. Well, now, let's sit down and open the lunch basket.
Here's a banana.
A banana?
That'll hold you till I get out the sandwiches and pour the coffee.
Okay. You know, I heard Mr. Benny's program last week, and it was really a dilly. Almost as good as Spate Cooley. You know, when he came out and said...
Oh, look, Lamb, the curtain is opening.
The Lucky Strike program starring Jack Benny with Mary Livingston, Phil Harris, Rochester, Dennis Day, the Sportsman's Quartet, and yours truly, Don Wilson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we bring you a man who is loved, admired, and respected by millions. And here he is, Jack Benny.
Thank you. Hello again. This is Jack Benny talking.
Hi, Rube.
What?
Thanks for the tickets.
You're welcome. This is Jack Benny talking, and Don, your introduction was
Heard
just...
your show last week. Laughed so hard I fell off my milking stool.
Now, look.
Now, if I hadn't had a good grip on that cow, I'd have broken my nose.
If you hadn't muffed that line, you'd have gotten a bigger laugh, too. Now, why doesn't he keep quiet?
Jack, the show.
Oh, yes. Hello again. This is Jack Benny talking. And, Don, it gives me great pleasure to announce that tonight we're going to do a sketch to celebrate a great event in California history. This event happened on September 9th, 100 years ago. Now, kids, who knows why Californians will always cherish that wonderful day?
I do.
Why?
No smog.
I mean another reason. Don, do you know what California is celebrating?
No.
Don, you mean to tell me that you, a college man, a radio announcer, don't know California history? That's disgusting.
Now, just a minute. Why should I know about California history? I was born in Colorado.
Well, some of you must have flabbed over into California. But since none of you seem to know, I'll tell you. This month, in fact, all this year, we're celebrating the California Centennial.
Centennial? What's that?
What's that, Phil? 100 years ago, California joined the Union.
The whole state?
Why, certainly.
That patroller really is on his toes, ain't he?
Yes, Phil, yes. Ain't he? What English? You know, it's a shame. Once in a while, I get into a mood where I try to discuss a subject of national importance. There isn't one member of my cast that I can talk to intelligently.
Hello, Mr. Benny.
Dennis, you can go and sit down.
Yes, sir.
Now, Don, as long as there's no one here who knows anything about this subject, we might as well try and do something else.
Oh, Mr. Benny.
What?
Did you know that this month we're celebrating the California Centennial?
Yes, I know it. I just said it. Now, Don...
It was just 100 years ago, September 9th, that the state of California was admitted to the Union.
I know.
Of course, California was discovered in 1542 by Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo. That gave Spain the right of discovery. However, Spain at this time was busy with affairs in Europe and neglected the territory. But in the year 1769, Carlos III of Spain sent forward the Porto La Sierra expedition. This was the beginning of the building of the missions and the conversion of the Indians on the Porto La Sierra. Then colonization followed. The colonists were sent from Mexico. Then in 1822, California became a territory of the Republic of Mexico. At the close of the Mexican War with the United States, February 2nd, 1848, by the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, California passed into control of the United States. 2 weeks before this, January 24th, a mill was being built for Sutter of Sutter's Fort at Coloma.
Sutter?
John Sutter.
John Sutter?
John A. Sutter. His wife's name was Mildred. The California Territory was especially desirable to the United States because of its strategic position and its natural resources, such as gold, silver, oil, and timber. At Sutter's Mill, as I mentioned before, gold was discovered, culminating in one of the greatest gold rushes in history. And so, on September 9th, 1850, California was made a state and admitted to the Union.
Dennis, that was wonderful. I mean, how do you get your information?
I dialed 113.
You dial?
I've got more information in my little finger than you have in your whole head.
Well, Dennis, it's hard for me to get my head in the dial. Anyway, Dennis, it's not important how you acquired your information. The mere fact that you were able to retain it is an accomplishment in itself.
I sing, too.
I know. Now, let's have your song because we have a very important sketch to do.
I hope it's as funny as last week.
Oh, be quiet.
What are you going to sing, Dennis? Well, I'm going to sing a little ditty called All...
Dennis, don't talk! Just sing your song.
I give you all my love. The skies may fall, my love, but I will still be true. All my sighs will disappear at last. Now that you're here at last, my heart belongs to you. Let me go. You thrill me so I can see. As I recall my life, I've waited all my life to give you all my love. Let me go. You thrill me so I can see. As I recall my life, I've waited all my life to give you all my love. All my
Very good. Yes, sir. That was All My Love, sung by Dennis Day. And, Dennis, you sang it beautifully.
California was the 31st state admitted to the Union.
What?
I forgot to mention that before.
Oh, well, thanks, kid. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our feature attraction tonight, we are going to present...
The first governor of California was named Peter H. Burnett.
Dennis.
His wife's name was Mabel.
Dennis, we don't need any more information, so drop it.
Jack, if you're going to do a play about California, you better get started.
Mary, I'm trying to. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, in honor of the California Centennial, we are going to present a play based on this historical event. All right, Don, let's get started with our tribute to California.
Am I going to be in the play?
In it. You're going to be technical advisor.
Yeah. Go ahead, Don. Introduce the play.
Okay, Jack.
Oh, darn it, the phone. I'll get it. Whoop. Who threw that banana peel on the stage?
Hi, Rube.
What?
California got its first shipment of bananas in 1864.
Dennis, I don't care when. Okay. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Benny. This is Rochester.
Rochester, what do you want?
Have you been shopping lately?
Shopping? Yes, last Wednesday I bought some clothes. Why?
There's a man here from Sears Roebuck with your new suit.
Well, you can tell the man it's about time.
It sure is a nice suit, boy.
You really like it?
Yeah, I hope it looks as good on you as it does on him.
Rochester, you mean he came from the store wearing my new suit?
Yeah, he said for the price you paid, they couldn't afford to put it in the box.
Well, look, tell the man...
Now, hold it, boss.
What?
Here comes Roebuck wearing the extra pair of pants.
Well, look, Rochester, I'm in the middle of the program. Hang up the clothes and I'll see you later.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, say, boss.
Now what?
You got a letter from Alcatraz.
Oh, from my agent. Oh, what does he say? Open it up.
It's already been opened.
Oh, yes. Well, what does he say?
I'll read it to you. Dear Jack, next Friday's my birthday, and if you want to send me monogrammed shirts, my initials are 9-3.
Good old 9. What else does he say?
P.S. I can't wait to see you on television, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I'll answer him when I get home. So long, Rochester.
Goodbye.
All right, Don. All right, Don, start the play.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, to commemorate the centennial of California, we bring you our version of one of the historic events that took place in this great state. Curtain music.
My name is Slim Benny. My sidekick, Tex Harris, and I were a couple of prospectors drifting from place to place. In the year 1849, we found ourselves in the sleepy little Mexican pueblo of Nuestra Senora La Reina de Los Angeles de Porquinulco. In English, this meant stop here for plant inspection. One night, Tex and I were in the only lively place in town, Pedro's Saloon.
Been a pretty exciting evening here at Pedro's, eh, Tex?
Sure has, Slim.
Yes, we better get going.
Wait a minute, Slim. Want another drink?
Now, hold on, Tex. I know it ain't none of my business, but you've been drinking a little too much.
Well, it ain't my fault, Slim. I only drink to forget.
What are you trying to forget?
All the years I went around sober.
Well, I'll drink with you, but stand up for this one. Oh, bartender. Bartender.
What will you have, senor?
I'll have a double tequila.
And what for you, senor?
Well, I'm kind of hungry. I'll have a sandwich.
Okay, but you will have to go outside and eat it on your horse. This is a drive-in.
Then don't bother. You know, Tex, I like this little town. I think...
Move over, you hombres. I want a drink.
Stop shoving, mister.
I said move over.
I'm a-warning you. You better...
Slim, be careful. That's Wendy Wilson, the toughest man in these parts.
Oh, he is, eh? Well, I'll take care of that. I shot him in the stomach.
Now, look, Slim.
Which one of us you talking to?
He's a-talking to me. Now, what do you want here, anyway?
Well, wait a minute, partner. I didn't come here to fight. I came here to see the singer at this here saloon. Got a new song for by Stephen Foster.
No kidding. How does it go?
Be happy, go lucky, be happy, go lucky, strike. Hilly, poo, 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 poo.
Italy Poop Poop is by Stephen Foster?
Yep, it's called Jeannie with the Light Brown Tobacco.
Oh.
Well, look, here comes the singer now.
Yeah.
I watched her. She came through the door. She was a beautiful Mexican girl with dark skin and black eyes. And she had a perfect figure. Ankles 8 inches. Calves 13 inches. Hips 34. And a 25-inch waist. I was never without my tape measure. I looked at her and said,
Hello, girlie. Are you the singer in this saloon?
Sí,
You sing here every night?
sí,
Are you single?
sí,
What's your name?
Sue.
Sue?
Sí.
Well, Say, Sue, after your show tonight, how about going out with me? We could have a lot of fun together.
Do not get fresh with me, senor. The bartender, he is my brother.
Ah, you're kidding. Hey, bartender.
Si.
Can I talk to you a minute?
Si.
Are you her brother?
Si.
What's your name?
Si.
Si?
Si.
Well, look, Si, I want to go out with your sister, see?
She's Sue.
I know she's Sue, Si. I heard Sue say so.
What did you say, senor?
I'll kill Si. It was easier than reading that line again. Then I turned to Sue and said,
Sue, I think you and I ought to get married.
But why, senor, should I marry you?
Because now you're alone. I just killed your brother. I love you, Sue. If you marry me, you'll make me the happiest...
Gold has been discovered up north! Gold, do you hear me? Gold!
Gold? Goodbye, Sue. Come on, Tex. We're a-going north.
In 10 seconds, Pedro's saloon was empty. Everyone had rushed out, including Si. He was dead, but he didn't want to be poor. Tex and I rushed over to the general store to outfit ourselves for the long trek to Sutter's Mill. We bought burros, shovels, picks, blankets, and tents, and a hacksaw in case we visited my agent. Fully outfitted, we started on our trek up the San Joaquin Valley. We had all our equipment piled into a covered wagon, which was pulled by 16 mules.
Clippity-clop, clippity-clop. Get up there, mule. Sutter-hoo!
I come from Alabama with my banjo on my knee. I'm on my way to Sutter's Mill, where the gold dust waits for me. But if I do not find it there, I know I'll surely die. And when I'm dead and buried, oh, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I'm on my way to Sutter's Mill with an LSMFT.
Clippity-clop, clippity-clop. Here, come on, you mule. Come on, you mule. Someday I'm going to write a song about that. I got the title already. Good night, Irene.
I came from Alabama with an ashtray on my knee, 'cause I'm always smoking Lucky Strike, the cigarette for me. They're round and firm and fully packed and easy on the draw. For forest taste and mildness too, the best you ever saw. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me, for I'm on my way to Sutter's Mill with an LSMFT.
Clippity-clop, clippity-clop. Come on there, mule. Come on, Nellie. Come on, Francis.
30 pound smoking satisfaction, Lucky Strikes are fine. Just light one up and you'll agree, my darling Clementine. So be happy, go Lucky Strike with me, 'cause sure enough there's no rough up in an LSMFT.
Continued up the San Joaquin Valley. It was a long, hot, dusty trip. At night, we had to light fires to keep the animals away. We went for days without water, for weeks without a bath. Then the animals started lighting fires to keep us away. Finally, we arrived at Sutter's Mill and staked out our claims. For weeks, we dug and dug and dug.
I can't go on no more, Clem. I'm quitting.
Let's keep digging, Tex. I'm sure we'll find gold soon.
Oh, no. I can't go on, I tell you. I can't go on. This digging is breaking my back. The shoveling is killing me. And look at my hands. They're raw and bleeding. And the sun is ruining my hair.
That's good acting, Tex, but you can't give up digging now. If we hit gold, we'll be...
Tex, look, I just hit it. A vein of gold. We done it. We done it.
That's
did it.
When it came to English, I knew Tex was right. He had graduated from Harvard. Magna cum laude. Now that we found gold, we really went to work.
Now, come on, Tex. Let's get to work. There's a lot of gold here, and we're going to find it. Down, Tex, down. We're being attacked by Indians. Get down, Tex, down. Oh. Did that arrow get you, Tex? Tex, speak to me. Tell me you ain't hurt.
That isn't.
All right, Tex. Tell me you isn't hurt.
But I are.
Well, don't worry, Tex.
Look, the chief of the Indians is coming toward us.
Yeah, you stay here. I'll go and talk to him.
Use good English.
I will.
How? Me, he big Indian chief.
Indian chief? What tribe?
Sioux.
Sioux?
See.
Let's not go through that again.
Who you, Paley Face?
That's Pale Face. Paley Face is that statue in the lobby. My name is Slim Benny.
What you pale faces do here?
We just found gold.
Gold? Then me take 'em.
No, it's our gold. We worked for it. We dug for it. We slaved for it.
Indian no care. I take 'em your gold or I take 'em your scalp.
Well, all right. Here.
Slide right off 'em head.
The Indian chief left happily, taking my toupee to his teepee. That was the last we saw. Then winter fell, but that didn't stop Tex and me. Or is it Tex and I? What's the difference? When you're rich, you can say anything. We hid the gold in a big snowbank. We had a cool minion. The next day, we began to break camp and leave.
Well, I'm ready to go, Slim.
Me too, Tex. We got all the gold we need. Let's leave before we're ambushed.
Wait, Slim. One last thing. I'm going to go down to the spring and fill our canteens with water. There's nothing I like better than nice, cold, sparkling, clear, pure water.
What did you say, Tex?
Yes, I killed Slim. It was easier than reading that line again. Music, boys.
Jack will be back in just a moment, but first...
Be happy, go lucky, strike. Be happy, go lucky, strike today.
I parlez-vous, I speak 9 tongues, the linguist great am I. No matter how you say it, brother, lucky strikes the buy.
I am the leader of the band, I know what tunes you like, and favorite on your hit parade is Milder Lucky Strike.
Be happy, go lucky, strike. Be happy, go lucky, strike today.
Yes, friends, be happy, go lucky, and enjoy your cigarette. Puff by puff, you'll find Lucky's always give you perfect mildness. In fact, scientific tests prove Lucky Strike is milder than any other principal brand. But mildness is only part of the enjoyment Lucky's give you. You get rich taste, too. All the deep-down enjoyment that comes from truly fine tobacco. Because LS, MFT, Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. So, friends, be happy. Go lucky. Try a carton of Lucky Strike.
Be happy, go lucky, strike. Be happy, go lucky, strike today.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Crusade for Freedom offers every American an opportunity to play a personal part in a great moral crusade for freedom, faith, and peace throughout the earth. In Berlin on United Nations Day, October 24th, the Freedom Bell will peal out this message of hope inscribed on its rim, that this world, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. So please don't forget to enroll in the Crusade for Freedom. Thank you. Good night, sir.
Stay tuned in for the new Harold Perry Show, which follows immediately. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is Chesterton Radio, your home for podcasts of works by G.K. Chesterton, plus drama, comedy, mystery, science fiction, big bands, and much more. The soundtrack to your Chesterton day at chestertonradio.com.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. What I Saw in America by G.K. Chesterton. Section 21, Chapter 10, Part 1. Fads and Public Opinion. A foreigner is a man who laughs at everything except jokes. He is perfectly entitled to laugh at anything so long as he realizes in a reverent and religious spirit that he himself is laughable. I was a foreigner in America, and I can truly claim that the sense of my own laughable position never left me. But when the native and the foreigner have finished with seeing the fun in each other, in things that are meant to be serious, they both approach the far more delicate and dangerous ground of things that are meant to be funny. The sense of humour is generally very national. Perhaps that is why the internationalists are so careful to purge themselves of it. I had occasion during the war to consider the rights and wrongs of certain differences alleged to have arisen between the English and American soldiers at the front. And rightly or wrongly I came to the conclusion that they arose from a failure to understand when a foreigner is serious and when he is humorous. And it is in the very nature of the best sort of joke to be the worst sort of insult if it is not taken as a joke. The English and the American types of humour are in one way directly contrary. The most American sort of fun involves a soaring imagination, piling one house on another in a tower like that of a skyscraper. The most English humour consists of a sort of bathos, of a man returning to the earth, his mother, in a homely fashion, as when he sits down suddenly on a butter slide. English farce describes a man as being in a hole. American fantasy, in its more aspiring spirit, describes a man as being up a tree. The former is to be found in the Cockney comic songs that concern themselves with hanging out the washing or coming home with the milk. The latter is to be found in those fantastic yarns about machines that turn live pigs into pigskin purses or burning cities that serve to hatch an egg. But it will be inevitable when the two first come into contact that bathos will sound like vulgarity and the extravagance will sound like boasting. Suppose an American soldier said to an English soldier in the trenches, "The Kaiser may want a place in the sun. I reckon he won't have a place in the solar system when we begin to hustle." The English soldier will very probably form the impression that this is arrogance, an impression based on the extraordinary assumption that the American means what he says. The American has merely indulged in a little art for art's sake, an abstract adventure of the imagination. He has told an American short story. But the Englishman, not understanding this, will think the other man is boasting and reflecting on the insufficiency of the English effort. The English soldier is very likely to say something like, "Oh, you'll be wanting to get home to your old woman before that, and asking for a kipper with your tea." And it is quite likely that the American will be offended in his turn at having his arabesque of abstract beauty answered in so personal a fashion. Being an American, he will probably have a fine and chivalrous respect for his wife, and may object to her being called an old woman. Possibly he, in turn, may be under the extraordinary delusion that talking of the old woman really means that the woman is old. Possibly he thinks the mysterious demand for a kipper carries with it some charge of ill-treating his wife, which his national sense of honour swiftly resents. But the real cross purposes come from the contrary direction of the two exaggerations, the American making life more wild and impossible than it is, and the Englishman making it more flat and farcical than it is, the one escaping from the house of life by a skylight and the other by a trap door. This difficulty of different humours is a very practical one for practical people. Most of those who profess to remove all international differences are not practical people. Most of the phrases offered for the reconciliation of severally patriotic peoples are entirely serious and even solemn phrases. But human conversation is not conducted in those phrases. The normal man, on 9 occasions out of 10, is rather a flippant man, and the normal man is almost always the national man. Patriotism is the most popular of all the virtues. The drier sort of democrats who despise it have the democracy against them in every country in the world. Hence their international efforts seldom go any farther than to effect an international reconciliation of all internationalists. But we have not solved the normal and popular problem until we have an international reconciliation of all nationalists. It is very difficult to see how humour can be translated at all. When Sam Weller is in the Fleet Prison and Mrs. Weller and Mr. Stiggins sit on each side of the fireplace and weep and groan with sympathy, old Mr. Weller observes, "Vell, Sammy, I hope you find your spirits rose by this 'ere lively visit." I have never looked up this passage in the popular and successful French version of Pickwick, but I confess I am curious as to what French past participle conveys the precise effect of the word rose. A translator has not only to give the right translation of the right word, but the right translation of the wrong word. And in the same way I am quite prepared to suspect that there are English jokes which an Englishman must enjoy in his own rich and romantic solitude, without asking for the sympathy of an American. But Englishmen are generally only too prone to claim this fine perception, without seeing that the fine edge of it cuts both ways. I have begun this chapter on the note of national humour because I wish to make it quite clear that I realize how easily a foreigner may take something seriously that is not serious. When I think something in America is really foolish, it may be that I am made a fool of. It is the first duty of traveller to allow for this, but it seems to be the very last thing that occurs to some travellers. But when I seek to say something of what may be called the fantastic side of America, I allow beforehand that some of it may be meant to be fantastic, and indeed it is very difficult to believe that some of it is meant to be serious. But whether or no there is a joke, there is certainly an inconsistency, and it is an inconsistency of the moral make-up of America which both puzzles and amuses me. The danger of democracy is not anarchy, but convention. There is even a sort of double meaning in the word convention, for it is also used for the most informal and popular sort of parliament, a parliament not summoned by any king. The Americans come together very easily without any king, but their coming together is in every sense a convention, and even a very conventional convention. In a democracy, riot is rather the exception, and respectability certainly the rule. And though a superficial sightseer should hesitate about all such generalizations, and certainly should allow for enormous exceptions to them, he does receive a general impression of unity, verging on uniformity. Thus Americans all dress well. One might almost say that American women all look well, but they do not, as compared with Europeans, look very different. They are in the fashion, too much in the fashion even to be conspicuously fashionable. Of course there are patches, both Bohemian and Babylonian, of which this is not true. But I'm talking of the general tone of a whole democracy. I've said there is more respectability than riot, but indeed, in a deeper sense, the same spirit is behind both riot and respectability. It is the same social force that makes it possible for the respectable to boycott a man and for the riotous to lynch him. I do not object to it being called the herd instinct, so long as we realize that it is a metaphor and not an explanation. Public opinion can be a prairie fire. It eats up everything that opposes it, and there is the grandeur as well as the grave disadvantage of a natural catastrophe in that national unity. Pacifists who complain in England of the intolerance of patriotism have no notion of what patriotism can be like. If they had been in America after America had entered the war, they would have seen something which they have always, perhaps subconsciously, dreaded, and would then have beyond all their worst dreams detested, and the name of it is democracy. They would have found that there are disadvantages in birds of a feather flocking together, and that one of them follows on a too complacent display of the white feather. The truth is that a certain flexible sympathy with eccentrics of this kind is rather one of the advantages of an aristocratic tradition. The imprisonment of Mr. Debs, the American pacifist, which really was prolonged and oppressive, would probably have been shortened in England, where his opinions were shared by aristocrats like Mr. Bertrand Russell and Mr. Ponsonby. A man like Lord Hugh Cecil would be moved to the defence of conscientious objectors, partly by a true instinct of chivalry, but partly also by the general feeling that a gentleman may very probably have aunts and uncles who are quite as mad. He takes the matter personally, in the sense of being able to imagine the psychology of the persons. But the democracy is no respecter of persons. It is no respecter of them either in the bad and servile or in the good and sympathetic sense. And Debs was nothing to the democracy. He was but one of the millions. This is a real problem or question in the balance, touching different forms of government, which is, of course, quite neglected by the idealists who merely repeat long words. There was during the war a society called the Union of Democratic Control, which would have been instantly destroyed anywhere where democracy had any control or where there was any union. And in this sense the United States have most emphatically got a union. Nevertheless, I think there is something rather more subtle than this simple popular solidity behind the assimilation of American citizens to each other. There is something even in the individual ideal that drives towards this social sympathy. And it is here that we have to remember that biological fancies like the herd instinct are only figures of speech, and cannot really cover anything human. For the Americans are in some ways a very self-conscious people. To compare their social enthusiasm to a stampede of cattle is to ask us to believe in a bull writing a diary, or a cow looking in a looking-glass. Intensely sensitive by their very vitality, they are certainly conscious of criticism, and not merely of a blind and brutal appetite. But the peculiar point about them is that it is this very vividness in the self that often produces the similarity. It may be that when they are unconscious they are like bulls and cows, but it is when they are self-conscious that they are like each other. Individualism is the death of individuality. It is so, if only because it is an ism. Many Americans become almost impersonal in their worship of personality. Where their natural selves might differ, their ideal selves tend to be the same. Anybody can see what I mean in those strong, self-conscious photographs of American businessmen that can be seen in any American magazine. Each may conceive himself to be a solitary Napoleon brooding at St. Helena, but the result is a multitude of Napoleons brooding all over the place. Each of them must have the eyes of a mesmerist, but the most weak-minded person cannot be mesmerized by more than one millionaire at a time. Each of the millionaires must thrust forward his jaw, offering, if I may say so, to fight the world with the same weapons as Samson. Each of them must accentuate the length of his chin, especially, of course, by always being completely clean-shaven. It would be obviously inconsistent with personality to prefer to wear a beard. These are, of course, fantastic examples on the fringe of American life, but they do stand for a certain assimilation, not through brute gregariousness, but rather through isolated dreaming. And though it is not always carried so far as this, I do not think it is carried too far. There is not quite enough unconsciousness to produce real individuality. There is a sort of worship of will power in the abstract, so that people are actually thinking about how they can will more than about what they want. To this I do think a certain corrective could be found in the nature of English eccentricity. Every man in his humour is most interesting when he is unconscious of his humour, or at least when he is in an intermediate stage between humour in the old sense of oddity and in the new sense of irony. Much is said in these days against negative morality, and certainly most Americans would show a positive preference for positive morality. The virtues they venerate collectively are very active virtues: cheerfulness and courage and vim, otherwise zip, also pep, and similar things. But it is sometimes forgotten that negative morality is freer than positive morality. Negative morality is a net of a larger and more open pattern, of which the lines or cords constrict at longer intervals. A man like Dr. Johnson could grow in his own way to his own stature in the net of the 10 Commandments, precisely because he was convinced that there were only 10 of them. He was not compressed into the mould of positive beauty, like that of the Apollo Belvedere or the American Citizen. This criticism is sometimes true even of the American woman, who is certainly a much more delightful person than the mesmeric millionaire with his shaven jaw. Interviewers in the United States perpetually asked me what I thought of American women, and I confessed a distaste for such generalizations which I have not managed to lose. The Americans, who are the most chivalrous people in the world, may perhaps understand me, but I can never help feeling that there is something polygamous about talking of women in the plural at all, something unworthy of any American except a Mormon. Nevertheless, I think the exaggeration I suggest does extend in a less degree to American women, fascinating as they are. I think they too tend too much to this cult of impersonal personality. It is a description easy to exaggerate even by the faintest emphasis, for all these things are subtle and subject to striking individual exceptions. To complain of people for being brave and bright, and kind and intelligent, may not unreasonably appear unreasonable. And yet there is something in the background that can only be expressed by a symbol, something that is not shallowness but a neglect of the subconsciousness and the vaguer and slower impulses, something that can be missed amid all that laughter and light under those starry candelabra of the ideals of the happy virtues. Sometimes it came over me in a wordless wave that I should like to see a sulky woman, how she would walk in beauty like the night and reveal more silent spaces full of older stars. These things cannot be conveyed in their delicate proportion, even in the most detached description. But the same thing was in the mind of a white-bearded old man I met in New York, an Irish exile and a wonderful talker, who stared up at the tower of gilded galleries of the great hotel, and said with that spontaneous movement of style which is hardly heard except from Irish talkers, "And I have been in a village in the mountains where the people could hardly read or write, but all the men were like soldiers, and all the women had pride." The end of section 21.
This is Chesterton Radio, the true, good, and beautiful at chestertonradio.com.